Welcome to of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. Let's do this, guys. We got a big action-packed show for you guys. But first, we would like for you guys to know, of course, and remind you all that we are sponsored by the Virtual Fight Tour. And Virtual Fight Tour's next event is going to be the Diamond Nationals. So they're going to have the best of the lightweight overall grand versus the heavyweight overall grand. And the Virtual Fight Tour is sponsoring the last man standing is what they're calling it, right?
It's got a nice ring to it.
I like it too. Exactly. I like it too. So again, just thank you to Virtual Fight Tour. Thank you, Jesse Ray, for all the great things he has done for sport karate over this past year. We just celebrated 1 year anniversary of the Virtual Fight Tour. And so thank you so much for that. And guys, go out and support his next event as well, coming up in November. So awesome. All right, Alex.
Let's introduce our guests. We have the Legends show tonight, that's for sure. We have Miss Helen Chung-Vasiliadis. I said that right, didn't I?
Oh, you did a good job.
You did.
We have a connection. All right. Miss Christine Bannon-Rodrigues.
Hello.
Miss Elsa Cordero.
Woohoo.
And a 3-time guest.
I know.
And Miss Arlene Limas. Welcome back once again.
Thank you.
All right. So we are so excited to have you guys. Everyone's been excited. Actually, we told everyone a couple weeks ago when we had Casey Marks Nash on, as well as Lauren Carney on, and Elise Garrell, which was a great show. And we kind of teased that you guys are all coming on, and they were like, whoa, what? Their eyes got big, you know?
Yeah, they were geeking out about it.
So you're talking about 90s and 2000s women legends that are looking up to people like you, so leading the way. So they're all excited as well to hear what's going on. So let's see. Let's go ahead and start with what it is you guys want to present to us, and let us know what you guys have going on.
All right. So I'll go first. So I had been talking to Jesse Bowen from AMAA, and so I had talked to him about splashing a woman's martial arts book. In the past, he's had these books that has been a combination, mostly men and women, but mostly focusing on men. But I was really interested in maybe doing a tribute to women martial artists by women martial artists. So, and we had talked as a group about maybe focusing on the women in martial arts in North America, USA, and Canada. And our current plan is for Jesse to publish this book. He had started this book, I think it was in 2015.
Yeah.
And have had published 6 books plus. There's some specialty books too, and had 5 different events. They've been at North Carolina, at Battle of Atlanta, and in DC at the Dennis Brown's tournament, so. This year, in the past, they focused on champions, grandmasters, and instructors. And this book, we want to focus mainly on women, but not limited to women. We're still kind of going through at the very beginning. But we want to really highlight those women that have or may have been overlooked in the past books, but we want to try to include, all the women that we feel that are deserving. And I had spoken to Jesse a bit about it, and decided that this year that I really wanted to take some action. So I went to the people that I was closest to from the late. So I started competing in 79. So in the late 70s, most of 80s. So it's Arlene and Linda Denley and Elsa and Christine and some others, but everybody's so busy doing their things like movies and things like that. So we are kind of the cream of the crop that have been very getting together. And we created kind of like a nominating board. And it's a little biased because I am only familiar with 80s and 90s. But like Arlene and Christine and Linda, they continue to coach. So they've stayed with it. And especially Christine and Arlene, they went from being competitors to coaches to promoters. So we're very excited about moving forward, and we have a lot of different things that we want to implement. And so that's it for me. That's basically, that's a wrap.
Well, and real quick, before we jump on a little bit, and it's really kind of dawned on me, we have people that really have probably, who are listeners to the show, we call them the insiders, that have probably never seen you perform before.
Right.
Right. Can you do this snippets? Can each one of you just kind of give us like little snippets and bullet points of some of the highlights of your competition career?
Right.
Okay. So I always use this example. My first tournament, I think, was either in 79 or 80. It was Battle of Atlanta. I went there. I competed in forms and fighting. Fighting, one division, all the women together. Forms, one division, men and women together. Black belt division was 200 competitors. My brother won first place. Karen Shepard won 8th place. There were only 8 places. So that was Battle of Atlanta, like in 79 or 80. So I competed from 79 until 89. So basically a span of 10 years. And then, through that time, the women's fighting division basically went to 2 divisions. That's the most I ever experienced, was lightweight and heavyweight, except for when I went to WACO World Championships in 1985 and 87. There were 4 divisions then. And I did win the World Championships in 1987. Awesome. I also had the pleasure and the opportunity to win the Bermuda Nationals because Arlene, who was my nemesis in fighting, went to the AAU. I guess they were tryouts for the Olympics. So then I was able to win in Bermuda in lightweight fighting. That was my claim to fame because Arlene wasn't there. So, but yeah, so that was basically, my highlight of just forms and fighting. And there weren't very many divisions when I was competing.
Right.
And then I stopped competing in 1989. So.
Awesome. All right. Who's going next?
I'll go next.
Yeah.
There we go.
So the highlights for me in my martial arts career have been from the angle of teaching. I was the first woman head instructor for the Junri Institute. They were huge.
Amazing.
and it was under Jeff Smith's school. So that was one for me that was huge. Another thing was, like Helen was mentioning, that back then, all of the divisions, the grand championships were combined, right?
Right.
And being Jeff Smith's head instructor in his biggest school and competing, so we had, a relationship there that he wanted to help and contribute to all this. So he had a lot of influence with the promoters. So together, mainly his influence and my competing, we managed to separate women and men from the grand championship finals, awesome. Which I think was huge for the women's divisions.
Yes.
And then I guess lastly, I was the first person to win 4 Diamond National rings.
Yeah.
And after that, Nikki Carlson, I think, has surpassed that. And also Casey Marks, I think, has won 4 too. But I was the first one. So that was another highlight for me. And I competed in NASCA, WACO, ISCA, and USTU under Arlene's training and supervision.
Awesome.
So you mentioned something real quick. He's like, you were the first one to win 4 diamonds. He almost did it consecutively.
Almost did.
Almost,
I retired for a year, and then I said, "Nah, I'm going back one more."
Yep.
That's when I won it. Yeah.
And that's interesting because the first Diamond Nationals I ever went to, I watched. It was in '92, and you won the diamond ring there. But Christine, you also won the diamond ring in fighting that same year.
Yep.
Let's talk about a segue.
Yeah,
because Christine and I split in competition a little bit, right? For a few years, I was doing more NASCAR, and you were doing more what was it, PKL or NBL?
It might have been the Waco and
for just for a few years, and then we converged again into NASCAR, competing together.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. All right,
So
Christine, you go.
I guess the biggest thing with my career, I would say, is being a Triple Crown champion, winning titles in all forms, fighting and weapons. And, after doing that in the U.S. back with the Karate Illustrated days, and then it turned into NASCAR. But I went and did it at the Waco World Championships and won 3 gold medals in forms, fighting, and weapons, which broke a world record with Waco. And then I went back to do it again. And so I did it a second time. So my total on Waco gold medals is 9. And
wow. Awesome.
Zolt Maradi just recently beat my record, like whatever it was 2 years ago or something like that. So, so I guess I'm still the top record holder for female, I would say, I believe. And just, trying to, I think a lot of people, when they get to our level, kind of put their focus on one or the other. They're either a forms and weapons person or a fighter, and it's hard to do both at that level. And people ask me what is my favorite. I would say fighting, because it's always different. If you nail your form, and it's kind of the same thing unless you're trying something new. But fighting is always different. You never know what's going to happen in the ring, and it's always a challenge. And being a lightweight, being able to, I think I went 13 months in NASCAR undefeated. So that was a good run for me, winning every grand and being a lightweight, beating the heavyweight back then for the grand for 13 months. So that was kind of how towards the end of my career when I was getting ready to retire.
What's interesting, awesome, Christine, is like what you said, it wasn't just that you did forms and fighting, you did weapons as well. But what I found more interesting, like I mentioned, the first time I saw you, as the ring winner. I saw you as the champion. And then later, as I started to learn a little bit more, I was like, wow, she does Chinese style forms and she's like a champion like that. Because I hadn't really seen men do it like that and be that successful very often. I don't know, Jeff, you probably know more than me.
Arlene was Kung Fu when I first met her.
Yeah.
Right? Arlene, weren't you Kung Fu?
Yeah. That's my first style.
Yeah,
that's my first style.
But that was
her. When I was competing, she was a junior. She was Lady Kung Fu.
Yeah, that was her nickname.
That's right.
Yes.
It almost seemed like the men would either concentrate on forms or fighting, that women were always doing either 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think
everything.
Yeah, I think all 3 of you guys did weapons, right?
Yes,
I didn't do weapons, but all of us did form and fighting. I mean, it's the year that I went to Waco was the first year they ever had women. That was in 1985. Yeah.
Okay.
Arlene, I know that your story's been told a couple of times here, but every episode's different, and every episode we might get a different listener. Would you still give us like some bullet points of your illustrious career?
Well, in this crowd, I love to highlight my competitions in the NASCAR circuit and through the Karate Illustrated ratings. I believe the heyday of sport martial arts. But yeah, competed in forms, fighting, and weapons. I only have 1 diamond ring. Like
only.
my group here.
0.
but yeah, I love doing point martial arts, sport, national martial arts, and transitioned to Olympic style and had some success there. Won the Olympics, as you guys know, and yeah, had a good career coaching. And now I was very excited when Helen called me and said, "Hey, let's brainstorm and have a group of, women acknowledging women."
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So let's go to who's next on this, on you guys, on what you guys want to talk about with the book, and what the plan is and how to get this going.
Arlene, I think you were going to talk a little bit about the vision of it and the possibilities of other ramifications from that.
Right.
Well, okay. Yeah, we started talking about, acknowledging the book and then acknowledging female martial artists in the book, and how would we do that, and how would we categorize them? Would we do it by success stories? Well, we do it by advocates, and it just started to take on a bigger life than that, right? And we really have settled upon creating a Women's Martial Arts Hall of Fame, which is put together by women. So we're really excited about that. So, and we're in the ground level. We envision this, having our book acknowledging female martial artists, starting the Women's Martial Arts Hall of Fame, and then maybe in a podcast series where we're constantly, bringing these pioneers and these groundbreakers in for storytelling.
Awesome. Sounds great.
We love stories.
Yeah, we do. We love those stories. Awesome. All right.
So where are you at with
I
the
think,
stages next? So we started the book.
Elsa would probably be.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I've got a lot of delay here.
It's okay.
Elsa Cordero will probably explain the why on why it's important to us. So I'll let her share that.
So I just wanted to share that I was part of the Who's Who in the martial arts, and it was, Helen, it was the first book, right? 2016. Yeah. I have it in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jeff Smith asked us, I don't know, he asked us to participate, right? I mean, that's how I remember it. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I felt very honored, and because I felt that, with my achievements and everything, I belonged in that book. And so I was very honored to be in it and being asked to do it. But then the subsequent books, in my eyes, this is totally subjective in my opinion, turned into more like, obviously because this has to be funded somehow, right?
Right.
But it turned more into like people contributing to be part, like to buy a page or buy a spot on the book. So it kind of lost its value to me. I felt that it was the value was diluted. So when Helen reached out to me about this book that we are looking to put together, I was really excited about it because I felt that it was going to be based on the contributions, whether it be, from a point of competition or training or coaching or inspiring people, being advocates for people, all of those things that inspire for something, to strive for something. I felt that it was it had a lot of value to it, and it was a good vision. So I'm excited about it. And then Arlene came with the idea of having this Hall of Fame recognizing women in the martial arts, which is a very male-centric sport, and it has been for forever. Right. I thought it was a great idea.
And again, we're talking about martial arts, not the competition side of it or the sports side of it. It's mostly just martial arts in general, right? Is that what we're really focusing on?
More the like Helen mentioned, the people that have inspired people through the martial arts.
Got it.
They have been, they have inspired people through coaching, through by example, by teaching them or whatnot.
Awesome.
So more of a substance behind it, and not just focusing on people that have.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it will be somewhat similar to the categories that we've had before. But we had talked about, and Christine, I think you were going to talk about the trailblazers and the pioneers in the decades, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So we want to break the book up, and we're still, in discussions of exactly how we're going to do this. But, different areas like pioneers, trailblazers, champions, teachers, and advocates, just to give the martial artist of today some kind of history and let it be focused all on females as well. So, the history over the years from like the 60s to now, we kind of came up with the 60s that we would maybe start at that point up until, the current times. But when you go to a tournament, I mean, I've been out there. These guys have been around just as long, but as a promoter and still being out on the circuit with the competitors, you can talk to the young kids today and mention the people on the screen, or a Nasty Anderson, or Billy Blanks, right. And, some of the great legends, Bill Wallace and Jeff Smith, and a lot of them don't recall them. They don't
Right.
have the history.
Right.
It's not like when we talk about baseball and you people know who Babe Ruth is, and even though they weren't around back then. So it's important for us to preserve the history of the martial arts, and then we're doing it with, focusing just on the females. And we think that's very important. And the females back in the 60s were far and few between. Right. And, there are a lot more female competitors and coaches and everything else now, but back then there definitely was not. So, we're talking about how we're going to break down the book and what kind of categories we're going to put those in. So it's not just competitors, it's also coaches, instructors, who those pioneers were and so forth. So that's what we're working on. And a lot of the earlier years, we're going to need help, because I wasn't training in the 60s. I mean, we were just getting born back then, So,
right.
But we definitely, that's something that we also want to do is to, ask for help for people that have that information of some of those people from way back.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Arlene, you might do you want to talk a little bit about getting some help about both financially and, with the search and things like that, with the history?
Yeah, let's hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, we would love to use this podcast, as an outreach. If people want to join us in this journey, we'd appreciate it. We would welcome people to submit, stories and recommendations on who they might or should be included, in the book. But I would also like to point out that, even if you're new to martial arts, at some point you're going to hear about the first world champions, Joe Louis and Jeff Smith and Bill Wallace. And you should hear about them. But we don't hear about Graciela Casillas and Cheryl Wheeler and Cookie Melendez. Those were the female kickboxers that were not only winning in kickboxing, but they were winning in boxing at the same time. So, those are, in my opinion, those are the people that I want to highlight and, make sure that, their names are known, because that's who inspired me.
Awesome.
So I got a couple of quick nuggets and questions that you're probably going to answer anyway. So one of them is that, because Christine, you mentioned, like these people now they've never really heard of or seen, the legends, of yesterday. Are you going to somehow keep records or stats of certain things? Because that would require a lot of legwork and logistics. So is that something that you're kind of thinking is going to be something that this will have an undertaking of? Anybody can.
Well, we obviously, at least the four of us, we're not that well learned in the 60s and the 70s. And obviously we will have our instructors as go-to people to ask, right? Because they were the ones that were around. Some of, whoever was around in the 60s or the 70s. Obviously I would go to Jeff because Jeff was around in the 70s and, and I think Chuck Norris was around in the 60s or whatever. And there were women back then, just very few. So what Arlene was mentioning is that we are looking for people to help, and obviously we want to use a platform like your platform to reach out to people who are following you guys on these podcasts to give us some aid. But I would really love it, Arlene, if you talked about the financial aspect of this, what we're also looking for.
Yeah, I mean, also, I mean, we want this to keep its integrity, as Elsa has shared with you. As soon as it gets to a point where we're worried about how we're going to pay for it, then some things might be compromised.
Mm-hmm.
So we would love to have a sponsor. We would love for, Dove or L'Oreal or,
Yeah. There you go.
I'm losing my thought here, but on the new athletic women's gear that just did Simone Biles and Felix,
that's
the
really
sprinter.
good.
So I mean, I think that there would be interest in that for us, because this is women promoting women, trying to share women's stories, powerful women's stories. So that's what we're hoping that we can connect with.
Well, and also too, because you're using, again, not just, unfortunately, sometimes we try to pigeonhole ourselves just as sport karate or whatever, but we're doing women's martial arts. So you can get into, judo, even, taekwondo, karate, different ones which reach everywhere, and there may be, other people that want to share that story, especially now with several of those in the Olympics now, right? So,
right.
Yeah, Mike said their brand is called Athleta.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh,
Right.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So obviously we are, sport karate, and Arlene is a little bit further out with her AAU. So our expertise is only in those areas, but we welcome the other areas of martial arts.
Right.
It may be limiting just because of our knowledge base, but people will have to understand that. So we're hoping that the word gets out, and that there are people who want to contribute.
Exactly. And just because there's one book doesn't mean there can't be 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Especially if we move forward with the Hall of Fame. This is something that we can continue moving forward. It's not like we're going to put all the women in the Hall of Fame at once. Obviously it's going to be kind of chronological and appropriate for how many people we put in there and things like that. So
awesome.
You guys have questions?
Yeah. So, I have several questions about not only just the book, but the whole purpose of the book. So let's just hear, who were some of the women that you all looked up to growing up, you know what I mean, in the sport? Because that's the reason why, we're really doing this, right? So we want to get back to those as well as the ones that you competed with. So I'll go the opposite way.
Right where I was going to go.
Yeah, exactly. Christine, you go first.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, you talked about me being a soft stylist, but my go-to and my very first style and still to this day is Kempo. I started studying Wushu after I made my black belt. And so, in the Kempo world, we had Nancy Serio, who was Nick Serio's ex-wife, who is passed away. But, she was like one of the pioneers and highest ranking female martial artists back then. So, I looked at her, and also Karen Shepard as a great forms competitor. And then Arlene and Linda, I used to see them on the cover of magazines and everything. And then before you know it, I'm putting my gear on, sitting at the ring, and they're right next to me. And it's like, oh boy, we're getting serious now, because I'm in with the big dogs. So, so that's, when I was coming up, I got a chance to fight Linda a lot more than Arlene, because Arlene was moving on to the Olympic style. So we only fought a few times, but And then Linda was kind of phasing out and getting ready to retire probably a year or so after I was, out there winning and going against her in grands and stuff. But, those two ladies, I definitely probably look at the females more on the fighting end than I did the forms. The forms, I think I was probably concentrating on a lot of the guys like John Fournette and people like that and Keith Hirabayashi.
Awesome. All right. Who's next?
I'll go.
Yes, let's go, Elsa.
Well, two people that really inspired and enhanced my life at different times in my career were definitely Helen and Arlene. Helen really opened up the doors for me in as much as competition. At the time, I was working with Jeff Smith, and then Helen came one time to the school, and then somehow we started training together, or we competed at a tournament together, local tournament together first. Then we started training, and then she, at the time, the promoters would pay hotel rooms for the people that were ranking. And I was broke at the time, obviously. So, and Helen just kind of took me under her wing and would bring me to the tournaments and everything, introduce me to people. So that really opened up the door for me. And later on in my career, Arlene came to Virginia and we worked together. Later on, we were business partners, and her level of training and teaching really enhanced my martial arts in all aspects, and especially in forms, because I was more of in fighting, because I was more of a forms person, even though I always fought and did weapons. So I mean, those really are the ones in my highlights in my martial arts career. I have others that came afterward and in between, but not as much as that influence.
Awesome. All right, let's go, Helen, and then we'll let Arlene finish.
So when I was competing, there weren't very many women. It was a man's world, and I was very lucky because I had both Jeff to train me in fighting, and then my brother John for forms. I think at the time, because the division was all combined together. Karen, I looked up to Karen Shepard. She was a soft stylist. And then later on, Cynthia came, and my goal was always to try to beat the soft stylist as a hard stylist. I think the only time I ever beat her in forms was in Texas, because Texas, everything is hard there.
Yeah.
So that was probably about the only other time, not until they started separating the women's divisions, hard style and soft style, then I started winning in women's forms. But then later on, Kim Dutrin came along, and she was an amazing hard stylist.
She's amazing. Yeah.
So I will tell you, in my school, there was a woman named Arlene. I'm having a brain freeze. What was her name? She was one of the first ones ever that competed and she won forms and fighting with my brother John. Do you remember what her name was? Lima. So there was a woman named Lima Simonovichus, and she was like the junior women rock star. And I was very young. I was 1970 when I started martial arts. And I think in 1974, she won both women's forms and fighting. And I always looked up to her because there weren't very many women, And so, and then, then came along everybody. Then it was Arlene and Linda and Christine and Lori Landtrip. We really had a group of a lot of talented women fighters and form competitors. It was like the golden years of competition, as far as I'm, my eyes.
Right.
And so that was a wonderful thing, and they did have the rankings, and they did have show money, and it was a wonderful time in my life, and I stopped competing in 1989. So, and I don't have a diamond ring. So.
It's all right. Me neither.
I think Elsa should give me one.
That's right. She should give you one, right? One of the things, Helen, too, is when your brother was on our show, and we actually asked him this question: who was his toughest competitor? And his answer wasn't what most people thought. His answer was Cynthia. Cynthia was his toughest competitor. He said because a lot of local and regional tournaments, she would beat him, and
they
such.
were from the same region, Region 10.
Right. And so at those, he would lose or tie or whatever. And then at the nationals, he would win. So, I mean, that just shows you how much of a trailblazer and a high level competitor she was back then. So
yes.
Pretty awesome. All right, Arlene, let's hear it.
And where'd she go?
She went blank.
Okay, there she is.
Unmute. Yeah, unmute, Arlene. There you go.
Got it.
All right, let's hear yours, Arlene.
She can't hear us.
Yeah. Arlene, can you hear?
Start talking.
Hold on, let me send her a chat.
Well, while we're waiting.
Yeah, you want to let's read some of the comments we have, man. We have a lot of great people that are watching right now. So Jeff Smith, of course, is watching. Just saying listening so many different names. Linda Dinley, Cynthia Rothrock, Malia DeCascos, Lima. He talked about her, was a student of his, 12 years old, and at 15 was competing in the women's division, forms and fighting, and was beating them back in the 70s. So pretty awesome. We got people like Carmichael Simon, Eddie Landa watching. So Patrice Clay, thank you so much for joining us.
In case you see Patrice every now and then.
Yeah.
That's my mom.
Arlene,
how's it going, Mom?
Okay.
How's it going?
So we can't see that, right? Those comments that people make.
Oh, I think she can hear us now.
Can you hear us now, Arlene?
I can.
All right. There we go.
Okay. Well, we were going over some of
just the women that you looked up to. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I must have gravitated as a young person to tournaments to watch and find, female competitors. But I remember very clearly in the Midwest, people like Bernice Downs, and at the time her name was Wendy Wenzel. She's changed her name to Wendy Dragonfire now. And they were fighting in the men's division. Every once in a while they'd fight each other, but they were fighting against the men first. And then my dad was a boxer. I've shared that before. So he was always into the boxing and the kickboxing. And so watching people like Graciela Casillas, Cookie Melendez, Cheryl Legs Wheeler. So, finding those people, and then right when I started traveling, I had the opportunity to see Malia DeCastos compete, Karen Shepard compete, and then contemporaries with Karen Shepard and, Christina and Helen. I never competed when Elsa was competing. She came on the scene after.
No, we competed at a tournament together in forms. One time.
USPU or was all right? Yes.
It was me.
I could never beat Arlene in fighting, but I could always beat her in form.
I beat her in form that time too.
Ooh, she wasn't gonna let you forget that.
Oh man, I get that win. So
we had lobbied USTU at the time, the United States Taekwondo Union, which was handling Olympic style fighting, to try to put in creative form way back then in the 90s.
Wow.
Now creative form in the Olympic movement is booming. But they did have it for 1 year at nationals, Elsa. You're correct.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I remember even when I was growing up, women were still fighting in the Southeast against the men. Nikki Carlson, Sue Breslton were both fighting the men at tournaments, maybe like 90, 91, something like that. But there were still some events that were like that. I mean, I even competed an event as an adult in 2000 where they put women in against the men. I mean, so it's crazy. So yes, I mean, there's so many that need that, let's just give them, what I always say is give them their flowers now, not later on, right?
Great way to put it.
So,
Yeah, we're very excited about this book. I think it's going to be a great thing. I think, especially in these times, I think it'll inspire a lot of women, and give credit where it's due. So
Right,
I'm very excited.
And yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Well, I love the idea of this book. And one of the things, and Christine, I think you might want to comment heavily on this just because you're so involved in the competition right now, currently. So as we're talking about and we're verbalizing just really the trailblazers, of yesterday, of what they were, the impact they've had. And I think we all can probably acknowledge that as far as women, girls in martial arts training, young girls in martial arts training is probably higher now than it's probably ever been. I think we all could probably agree with that. Yeah. I mean, even 20 years ago, if you had a class of 20 kids, you might have 3 or 4 of them be female. Now, if there's a class of 20 kids, you might have 17 of them be female. In some ways, it's actually skewed a little bit, and they're very good. Yeah. However, when we look at the competition,
Alex, I don't think that classroom is transitioning to sport. So
that's what he was saying.
Right. That's what he was just going to say.
Go. I think you're absolutely right, Arlene.
Yep.
And that's why I'm looking at that. And I don't have a solid feeling as to what I feel the reason is. And that's why I was thinking, all right, maybe Christine, you should comment on that. When we look at the competition, some of that goes to sport when they're young. But if we look at the 18 plus women, man, not a lot.
No. And I think the girls divisions are packed, the 12, 13 and, those under 18 divisions are packed. They're huge. And now with the women's, we were just talking about this the other day. It's not like it used to be. And I remember competing at the Battle way back, and they had 4 weight divisions for women. And I really watched my weight to make sure I could make the 110 and under division, the lightest division. And there was 25 girls in there. I mean, it was packed, and all the other divisions were just as big. So you don't get 25 women overall in the women's fighting division.
Not the 18 plus.
And I don't know.
Not even the forms either anymore.
No. And I don't know what the issue is once they turn adult, and why we're seeing a lot of men out there competing, but not as many in the women's divisions. And, as far as prize money goes, the NASCAR circuit has made everything equal with men and women in the grands as far as the prize money goes. But there is like that open weight division where it's everybody's in one division, and they give the men a couple $1,000 every tournament. It's not governed by NASCAR as far as how much prize money you can give.
Someone could give more.
So, the men's have been giving a lot of money. The women, they might have $500 or something like that. But Maggie Messina, who I would definitely like to mention, is the Female Fighters Matter too. She's been sponsoring these events and trying to match the prize money so that the women are getting the same prize money as the men. Yep. And, I see 2 things with that. As a competitor, I'm working just as hard as that male is to go out there and win that division. It's not my fault. No one else showed up.
Yep.
But as a promoter, I see the numbers. And when you have,
you're right,
50 in the men's and 8 in the women, or whatever the numbers may be, you have to balance that out. So I kind of see both scenarios there. But kudos to Maggie for supporting the women out there. And also, I'll quote her from, I think she was at Amerikick. She was getting the Hall of Fame, and she said, we need to have equality with men and women, but you women need to show up. So, we need to see the women out there showing their skills and getting out there and fighting or doing forms, and not just stopping once you hit the adult division.
And maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe my perception is wrong on this. But it almost feels like everybody is working around behind the scenes so hard for the women, we'll just say fighters, all right, to have the equality except for the actual women fighters.
Right.
I mean, sometimes it looks like that. Yeah.
And that's why I say maybe I'm off on my perception, but that's kind of what it seems like, just of the fighters today.
I'm not sure what today's situation is, but I remember back when I was competing, it used to be, like advanced women. It wasn't even black women.
Black belt.
Right.
And I remember very clearly Tom Latuli going to promoters and saying, you know what? The reason why you don't have more black belts fighting is because they don't want to come in and fight a blue belt or a red belt or a brown belt. If you give them your own division, them their own division, they'll come. And that's exactly what happened. So I don't know if current times, if that's what's going on, if you have to invest and then you'll get the investment back. I'm not sure, but it's got to be disheartening to go into a tournament and promoters get around equitable prize money by giving this other competition at the same time that Christine described, this King of the Ring type of thing. I guess it is. I'm not quite sure.
Right.
But like you were saying, Arlene, that Olympic style Taekwondo, the women are, really excelling, and there's a lot of women out there.
Right.
And I would probably say the same thing with WACO overseas in Europe, that the women's divisions are very strong. But here it is not. And I don't know what the answer is.
In both of those, there's not really prize money.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, that's something that's different. It's a different.
There's a lot of prestige.
Put out a post.
It's exactly. It's the prestige and it's the culture, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I would say that Anastasia winning her gold medal, she is the highest paid Taekwondo athlete in the country right now, just because Project Gold money and sponsorships now.
Right.
So, that's what's happening in the Olympic Taekwondo world. It is women that are producing successful events and winning medals for us. They're the ones that are getting the sponsorship and the support from the national governing body, not our men. Our men are, flailing right now. So that's encouraging more females, more young girls to compete. It's that snowball effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things too that, I mean, this is some, there's a few teams that are sponsoring a lot of women right now. There's Team Legend that has a lot, in the Florida area, in sport karate. Revolution has a lot of women. There's a lot of women from Mexico that are coming to America to compete. We're seeing a lot of that. So something that I don't know if there's ever been, I don't remember it, if there was ever just a women's sponsored team. Do you remember? Anyone remember that? I have not. I mean, Christine, can you think of anyone that?
I was actually on it. It wasn't like a sponsored team that we competed at every tournament and had sponsorship, but we had a team, a female team macho that was, we did 1 or 2 special team fights, and it was more New England based. Women, but I don't really know of any that were just females.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is too, in the 90s, 3 women teams kind of got sort of big, and NBL was a big thing. It was a big division NBL, 3 women teams, but it wasn't as big in NASCA. It was at some events and stuff. And I remember my mom as the manager of Team Elite and CJB, she really pushed for that. And it kind of happened at a few events, but even that, now we're seeing 2 women teams. It's just weird how even some of that has kind of evolved, like where are we going to see more of that competition with the women? What do we all think will be that? Will it just be the individuals? Will it be teams? Will it be the forums, weapons? Where do we think the growth is going to be at?
Christine, I think you're the best person to answer this for Arlene.
Yeah.
And just a thought, as young girls are getting more opportunities in other sports, in Title IX take hold, martial arts used to be the only place. I mean, at least for me as a kid, that's where I could go and, in a sense, be 100% accepted. And
right.
those other
Exactly.
weren't. But now, today, those sports are there for every young girl who wants to do
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
the reason on why there is a drop off, you know, and we know martial arts makes great athletes. So, and we've all known as coaches, teachers, that we lose athletes to other sports. So maybe that might be the phenomenon that's happening, where we're creating these great martial artists and good athletes, and then they're going
We're
to play
making them too
basketball.
good.
Something else.
Or soccer or whatever.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot. And some schools have actually, like for me, I kind of encourage them to do team sports because it is a different thing. But to continue that martial arts is your base. It's the foundation. It's not even, I mean, there's two things. There's the art and then there's the sport. There's two elements to it in some ways, right? So if you continue with what is your foundation, that's going to help you in whatever else you do. You know, that's kind of the way I kind of pitch it with my students and stuff. And there even now there are things that are it's called like martial athletes, where they teach martial arts elements for linemen and linebackers and other sports. And it's a big group it's a big franchise in Florida that does this and teaches different things for high level professional athletes. So it's proof there that the martial arts crosses over in all genres, you know?
Yeah.
I want to spin this in another direction for you guys. So you guys started to get really excited about it in the beginning, especially you, Helen, about really kind of your motivation behind this. And what I really started to envision as you guys were all kind of depicting what this was all for, I just, in my head, just started picturing like a compilation of just really awesome women martial artists. And whether it's, you know, Elsa's super high front, which by the way, I don't know how your hips were able to let you do like a super high front kick and just hold it like that in your forms, by the way. If you guys hadn't seen insiders, if you guys haven't seen an Elsa Cordero form, like that was something she was able to do, and then pull the toes back, hold the ball kick there.
Yes,
yeah,
it was
not
great.
gonna lie, I tried
And
that.
not having had to have a hip replacement.
There you go. There you
Hips
go.
are fine.
There you go. That
Well,
gives me hope. That gives me hope as a kicker. I love it.
I'm hoping that this book, especially in these times, will, you know, empower girls. You know, to see the past of women that were kind of like the rock stars, and maybe that will inspire them. Caitlin Deshane, is that her name?
Caitlin
Deshelle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I met her a
like
few
this
times.
a lot.
I had no idea who she was. And then I went back and looked at some stuff and I was like, well, heck, she won the Diamond Nationals like 5 times or 6 times.
Yeah, like,
I was
what,
like
6, 7, something like that.
yeah, so someone like her, you know, it's a little bit younger. I mean, we hope to include her, you know, in the book. And we actually, you know, she was one of the people that I had asked to be part of this, you know, group, to brainstorming group, but she had other things going on. But yeah, so we want to empower other, you know, female young martial artists or whatever to you know, to take something from there, like from the storytelling or things like that. So yeah, so I'm excited.
Awesome.
Well, who is somebody else? Okay, so like you just mentioned Helen, like you were like, I would love to include Caitlin. Maybe she'll be involved later. Who are some other names that you guys can drop that we can, you know, really get excited about? Like, get ready for this person because we're going to mention.
I think Casey Marks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Casey.
Cynthia Rothrock.
Awesome.
Who else did we have?
We had Karen Shepard, Lori Landtrip,
Kim Dutrin. We don't know where she is, but remember we mentioned her.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
She was.
So Casey Marks.
And we talked about us.
We're also going to reach out to Cesar Burkowski's wife, Marion Manso.
Marion Manso.
Yes.
In her own right. And, you know, maybe she can take the lead on the Canadian martial artists that have had, you know, back. I mean, but you
Yeah,
know,
Linda's involved, Jeff.
Yeah, Linda is involved. She's just been going through a lot with all the stuff that's happening in Texas.
Right.
Yeah, because I had spoken to Linda originally. She and I were together when we were in Las Vegas talking to Jesse about it. It's just that she's just been super busy, and it's, you know, right now she's trying to manage the stuff that's going on at home.
Carmichael and Timothy have been chiming in with their recommendations.
Yeah, with Nikki, Bernadette.
Bernadette.
Yeah, some great ones.
Nikki Carlson Lee was the first martial artist I ever watched perform, and I got seriously intimidated by. All right. Well, number one, she's 17 feet tall.
Yes.
And her hips started at her armpits. But the way that she would like throw like an axe kick, fake it, and then drop a side kick into someone's ribs. I just remember watching her feeling like I would die. All right. I was also a kid.
mean, I fought Nikki and I'm 5'2". Okay.
Right.
It was terrifying under that leg.
I've fought her as well. She's a very good fighter.
Yeah.
Well, so for me it was okay, Arlene or Linda.
What to talk to?
I didn't even want either one of them.
Which straw are you going to draw?
Yeah. It's like, hey, I either fight this one or this one. Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Man. You were saying, you know, what excites us about this, and it is, for me personally, it's a little bit of the lack of regard for the great things that some of our female martial artists have done. Like, for example, I mean, and maybe someone on the panel can confirm this, but I grew up hearing that, you know, Linda Denley had a 500 tournament win streak. 500 tournament win streak. I mean, if there's any other martial artist, male, female, Martian, that's ever done anything like that.
Right.
Now we can call her a Martian.
That's
funny. I think the female martial arts has really come a long way from being maybe the only female in a class, you know, or one of only of a couple, not having women divisions where now we do. And, you know, I mean, I was the first female to be on the Paul Mitchell team after I left the Trans World Oil team. So like those things, you know, I like to be able to say, you know, I led the way as far as, you know, for other females to be out on Paul Mitchell team and, you know, for the different things that we helped change through the decades as far as these women divisions and just how it is getting so close to what the men have accomplished, you know? So yeah. I think it's important for people to know that history of how far it has come over the years.
One more thing that I feel like is something that we are lacking on, and it goes a little bit with what Carmichael's question was, and it's something that we don't have a lot of female promoters. You know, Christine, you're one. You know, where is that? You know, what is the recommendation? You know, as far as for that mentorship, what do you think? What, you know, as far as inspiring people to do that? Or what do you think is lacking? Why do you feel like that isn't a thing as much?
I don't know. I think a lot of couples, you know, like you have Muhammad and his wife, or you know. Well, yeah,
it's not going to happen without a woman. So I mean, no matter what. I mean, I've been a tournament promoter. Yeah, I've been a tournament promoter. It's not going to happen without my mom, without my girlfriend, without parents at the karate school. Like, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely. And the behind the men and doing the work behind the scenes, you know, I feel like Don and we co-promote the tournament together, and we both have our own roles. And, you know, he's getting a little bit older and laying back a little bit from the tournament scene. And I'm out there coaching and judging and promoting the event and stuff. And, you know, I just think women shouldn't feel intimidated to be out there with mostly male promoters. I mean, I sit in a NASCA meeting and it's, you know, 10 men and myself, and sometimes I'm lucky and Claire shows up.
Claire
from Canada, so David's wife. So, but a lot of times I'm the only female in there. So
right.
And I don't know. I just think they need to, have that confidence to go out there and do it, because they're doing it anyway. If they're with a guy, they're doing a lot of the work behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, and I've seen several that have done it on their own, and really tried to do it, and then stopped after 6 or 7 years. Like you have, Barbie Witts that did it for a long time in Vegas. You had Apple, Melissa Siosin that did a big tournament in Vegas for years. So there have been many women that have done this. So
back in the 70s and 80s, I think in New York, the Empire States.
Yes.
Yeah, Joy Santa Maria.
Yes, Santa Maria. She did
Santa
it.
Maria,
yes.
yeah.
She had a great tournament up there.
Yeah, she did.
As a kid and as a competitor at that time, going to an event that a female was producing and throwing, I mean, that was pretty awesome.
Right. And I like to see that more. I would like to see our competitors want to be promoters. You know what I mean? Like for me, that was my next thing. It's like once I got to adult division, it was judge and get, and coordinate and learn how to do all the jobs. So that way I could become a promoter, Well, and I don't see that as much, now.
I mean, there's a progression, right? You're a student, you're a competitor, you're a school owner.
Yep.
Exactly.
First, we still don't have the number of female school owners up. I mean, that has to grow first, even though I think that's, a real goal now. Women can have their own school now and be successful, but that wasn't the case, even 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You're so right. I mean, we're bringing up so many great points.
Yeah, we could all. There's possibility of mentoring, by a woman. That would be a huge step, because that doesn't really exist, right?
Yeah, going back to Arlene's point, it used to be that you always wanted to have a man either be your manager or your program director if you were a woman owner, so that you could have that male presence.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, on the flip side, it is smart to do the same thing on the opposite. So if you're a man and you own a martial arts school or business, it is very good for you to have a female as a head authority figure in your school for that exact same thing on the flip side.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one is absolutely necessary to your business. It's just a really good idea.
Right.
Well, obviously, it was in practice, because Jeff Smith, he was the owner, but his head instructor was Elsa.
And what year was that again?
It was like 86.
84? Oh, no. I got my black belt in 84. 85, 86. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So you kind of check both boxes. You check the male box and you check the female box.
That's smart.
Yeah. Wow.
So I have another question. And you guys kind of hinted on this a little bit. You said this is not a sport karate book or a kickboxing book. This is a women's martial arts book. So do you have ideas? I'm sure you probably already do. You probably already had conversations, but do you have any ideas as to who else you would talk to? Maybe someone like Michelle Watterson, or anybody else in any kind of women's martial arts field? Is it? I'm not well versed in lots of different martial arts.
Right. Or even I can think of someone like Kathy Long, who was,
Boom.
Kathy Long.
Yeah.
Words right out of my mouth. Well, name out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And there are several Olympic judocas, female judocas, who were groundbreaking, breaking trailblazers in judo. And I would definitely reach out to Lynn Rocky and other people, that could give us some insight there.
Awesome. There's so many places to go with this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's as, like exclusive as people, there's so many, like everyone's been impacted by a female in the martial arts,
If it was just a sport karate book, it would be a great book. right? Women's sport karate book, but it sounds to me like it's not.
Right.
And for me, this book sounds like, because you already mentioned you're going to have a Hall of Fame. It sounds like this could eventually grow into an entire entity,
Right.
Or like organization, right? Where this is Women in Martial Arts, INC. I don't know. I'm not the person to be involved in that.
Oh man, that's right. Well, thank you guys so much. I mean, this has been a great show, and we are excited. Thank you for bringing this to our platform and knowing that, like, what's cool about our show is that we have had people be like, well, who is this? We don't know this person. And then they learned and heard that story, and then they've reached out to someone else and learned about the history of our sport and martial arts and so many things. And that's what's been really cool about doing this show over the past 2 years, is being able to share the new school, the old school, the everything, just what everything has done to, just this whole amazing martial arts that we're a part of. So it's been great. So thank you, ladies, so much.
Speaking of that, Jeff, you know what's interesting along that same lines? I didn't know about Linda's 500 tournament win record until you told me that the first time you were on the show. I didn't even know that.
So you guys, please encourage your listeners to reach out to us. If they have someone in mind that they think that should be part of this, that would be great for us, because obviously we just want to include all those people that are deserving.
And right now, Helen, are we just reaching out to you guys on like Facebook, Instagram, just on your own personal things, or is there a link or an email or anything?
We are in the
process of infrastructure for that.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, but for a while, and any of us, they can reach out to us. But and then at some point, sometime soon, we are going to have all that in place.
And we'll share that with you.
You don't want to leave them your cell phone number and address right here?
I don't think so.
Don't do that.
I'm an open book, so.
Right, because you just had a party. Of course you are. You are the party girl.
Christine, what were you going to say before we wrap up?
I was just going to say what else. We're going to do a Facebook group for
awesome
this cause.
That's nice.
Great. Love it. Well, thank you guys so much, man. Ladies, this has been great. And I mean, honestly, I want to do this again and just tell stories, like we need to get into the stories, because we've had some great times talking with Arlene about some of the crazy stories from the past, and she's listened to me and Alex's crazy ideas every now and then. So we would love to have you guys join in on that as well. So
thank you guys. You were awesome.
No problem.
I have my friend here.
Your big dog.
Oh, that is not a little friend. That dog.
He was banging on the
door. What kind of dog is that?
It's a Great Dane.
Dog.
Oh,
it's a big dog.
Those things eat other dogs. Oh my gosh, they're huge.
Yes.
So in Korea, they're trying to ban the Koreans eating their dogs.
Oh,
what do you have? A ball in your mouth?
They used to eat. They have always eaten dogs, and so now I heard that they're trying to ban that.
Finally, okay.
Well, once they become pets, it's hard to eat them.
Well, I don't have dogs as pets.
Oh man! All right, this is going a whole nother way.
This has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. Thank you guys, and thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.